Om Sat Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskaram and welcome to one and all. I am Aishwarya Harish, the Cultural Coordinator for Nrityodaya, the Academy of Performing Arts, Mumbai. I welcome you all to the third session of the Young Researchers Forum, organized by Nrityodaya, the Academy of Performing Arts, Mumbai, and the Center for Excellence, Art and Culture, Shasun Jain College, Chennai. Today we are gathered here to talk about the Sandhya worship. It is our sincere endeavor to bring each of these sessions in a way that they cover broad topics of our Bharatiya Sanskriti and our Sanatana Dharma. We begin today's session on an auspicious note with a prayer rendered by Srimati Vaishnavi Anand, Director, Chetas, Singapore.
Shubham karoti kalyanam arogyam dhanasampadah shatrubuddhi vinashaya deepajyoti namostute दीपज्योति परब्रह्म दीपज्योति जनार्दन दीपो हरतु मे पापं संध्यादीप नमोस्तुते संध्यादीप नमोस्तुते पूर्वा संध्या तु गायत्री सावित्री मध्यमा स्मृता या भवेत् पश्चिमा संध्या ताविज्ञेया सरस्वती दीपो हरतु मे पापं संध्यादीपं नमोस्तुते संध्यादीपं नमोस्तुते.
Thank you for that soulful rendering. I now invite Dr. Jayashree Rajagopalan, Director, Nrityodaya, the Academy of Performing Arts, to give the welcome address.
Om Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Sai Ram. Namaste and a very warm welcome to each one of you who has come here to attend the Young Researchers Forum conducted by our institute, Nrityodaya, the Academy of Performing Arts, and Center of Excellence, Art and Culture, Shasun Jain College for Women, Chennai. We had a very auspicious inauguration conducted by my guru, Dr. Padma Subramaniam and Shekhar Senji. And now we go on to our second paper presentation by Shri Subramaniam Chidambaram, who is an engineer, but his versatility, he has diversified into various aspects of Indology, not only in interest, but also gaining academic qualification. We welcome you and we look forward to your presentation on the worship of Sandhya, its origin from the Vedic period and its relevance till date. We are extremely fortunate and grateful to Dr. Srinivasan, who is erudition personified. He is been the HOD of the Sanskrit department of Vivekananda College, Chennai, and also retired as the principal of Vivekananda College. So we are very, very fortunate to have you here to give your expert comments to the young researcher who has delved into this very special subject on Sandhya worship, which is so relevant even today. And just a word about this Young Researchers Forum. Uh, my sister, Dr. Rajashri Vasudevan, who heads the Center of Excellence, Shashan College, Chennai, and I, who's been, having this institution, Rityodaya, in Mumbai for the past 45 years, have been planning to create a platform for young researchers, because we are constantly coming in contact with so many youngsters who either seek guidance from us, or we meet them during several seminars and our dance performances. And they are a group of very dedicated people who are trying to delve deep into our culture and show the relevance of our ancient knowledge till date. So I think the log. Sorry, when we say online, we have to be prepared for everything. So I went offline for a moment because that's what my internet decided to do. And we have been very fortunate to have the support of Shri Ramesh from Mahindra Finance, who felt that it was very worthy to support the young research scholars. And so we welcome the members who have joined to see this with us in Facebook, and to Sri Subramaniam, and of course to Dr. Srinivasan, who is with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jayashree. I request Dr. Rajshri Vasudevan, Director, Center for Excellent Art and Culture, Shasun Jain College, Chennai, to introduce our speakers and guests.
Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Sai Ram. It gives me immense pleasure to be introducing the young researcher, Subramaniam Chidambaram, and our expert, Dr. K. Srinivasan, to all of you today. It is said that the Sandhya worship is really our way of seeking the Lord's grace and forgiveness for all our daily activities. And I'm sure if we are sincere in our efforts, He will bless us with that grace. I just would like to give a few words about Dr. Srinivasan, who was very reluctant to share even his biodata with us, saying that he had not achieved anything much, which of course just goes to show his humility, because he has retired as the head Department of Sanskrit and principal, Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda College, Mylapore, Chennai. And he is currently Professor Emeritus, Kuppuswamy Shastri Research Institute in Chennai. He is the worthy student of illustrious teachers like Professor V.R. Kalyanasundaram Shastrigal and Professor K. Balasubramaniam Shastrigal. He has put in something close like 37 years of dedicated service at Vivekananda College in various capacities. He has been invited by Hebrew University, Jerusalem in 2004 to speak on Towards a New History of Sanskrit Literature. In November 2008, he was invited for the annual meeting of the prestigious American Academy of Religion, Chicago, where he spoke on Hinduism. His Upanyasams on a wide variety of topics, like the Upanishads, have made him a much sought after resource person for researchers in India and abroad. It is indeed our very good fortune, sir, that you accepted it. As you were mentioning a little while ago, all the scholars, the true scholars, have been extremely busy during the lockdown because everybody is seeking their advice. And I think you made time to be here with us this evening and guide our young researcher and give your inputs for the same. So thank you so much, sir, for your presence. We have the young researcher, Sri Subramaniam Chidambaram, who hails from a family of Samavedic scholars in the Pudukode village, Palakkad, Kerala, and he studied Vedic chanting for 8 years. By profession, he is an electrical engineer and a postgraduate in management from Lucknow. He is an MA in Sanskrit in Vedanta, a diploma in manuscriptology, University of Mumbai. He is currently working as head of strategy and digitization with the Siemens Group in India. He is a visiting faculty of Puranas and Vedanta, University of Madras, for advanced diploma and MA students. He has published operations and strategic case studies and articles in leading national and international management journals, delivered lectures at IIM Lucknow, Noida, and IIM Indore and VJTI, Mumbai. He is learning Carnatic music for the last 20 years under gurus like Srimati Vijaya Vishwanath and Sangeeta Kalacharya Srimati Alamelu Mani. He has won several awards and honors, which include the TAV Dikshitar Prize for Zala Vedanta from University of Mumbai, first prize in Young Scholars category, 19th Waves National Conference in Delhi, VN Mandalik Gold Medal by University of Mumbai for his article on Vishnu Purana, a system of Hindu mythology and tradition. Some of his prominent paper presentations include Ashtanga Yoga as reflected in Sandhya worship, Indic Academic Conference on Yoga in 2020, role of Karma Yoga in nation building at the International Conference on Contribution of Advaita Vedanta at Chinmaya International Foundation in 2015, and evolution of Sandhya worship and its relevance in modern times at 16th World Sanskrit Conference in Bangkok in 2015. I welcome both of you. I look forward, like the rest of us, to a very invigorating session. Thank you so much.
I can share my screen.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Subramaniam to take the.
Thanks.
Just Subramaniam Chidambaram to please speak and make his presentation.
I hope my screen is visible. At the outset, let me thank Nrityodaya, Dr. Jayashree Rajagopalan, ma'am, Shasun College authorities, Dr. Rajshri Vasudevan, ma'am, and our expert scholar today, Dr. K. Srinivasan sir, for being there here to listen to this lecture and give his valuable advice. And all of you who are there here watching this session, namaskaram to all of you. So since I have a time of 20 minutes, I shall touch upon the key points only, because the topic is really vast. If we start, this is easily a session of about an hour or two. So I'll try to at least mention the key pointers of the Sandhya worship, its origin, evolution, and relevance in modern times. So to begin with, what is Sandhya? Always in Samskrita, we start with the etymology. It's an easy way or a nice way to start with the etymology or the nirukta of the word itself. So one of the explanations is that the Sandhya comes from the term Sandhi. Sandhi means the central or the middle portion. With a specific relevance to Sandhya, which we shall come a bit in a few minutes' time, it could be deciphered as Ahoratrasya Yas Sandhihi Surya Nakshatra Varjitaha. I will come to this explanation in a few minutes' time. But the first is that it is the central position or a middle portion. And this actually, most of us who have read the Upanishads would have heard this term a lot. In the Taittiriya Upanishad Shikshavalli, when the Panchasvadhikaraneshu, the 5 adhikaranams are being explained, Athadi Lokam, Prithvi Purva Rupam, Dhyavuruttara Rupam, Akashas Sandhihi, Vayus Sandhanam, the term Sandhi comes. And when we look at the Shankara Bhashyam, what Acharya gives us Bhashya, he says Sandhihi Madhyam. Sandhi is the middle portion. And Sandhanam, Sandhiyate, the one that joins, Anena iti Sandhanam. So we come to that term, that Sandhi, Sandhanam, all these being the root terms contributing to Sandhya, which indicate the middle portion, the joining of two parts, etc. So this is what we get as an indication first. Taking this indication, if we try to see as I explained a few minutes later, as I stated, Aho Ratrasya Yas Sandhihi. So you have the Ratri, the night, moving into the day, through the day, the forenoon and the afternoon, and then moving into the night again. What we call in the English language as dawn, dusk, twilight. These are different terms we use for the morning joining, or the time when the morning begins from the night, and similarly in the evening. These are the sandhis. So you have the Pratah Sandhya, the morning joining between the Ratri and the beginning of the morning. The second between the forenoon and the afternoon, Madhya Ahaha, between, just in between the day, or Madhyannam, and the Sayam Sandhya, where it moves from the Ahani or Ahan to the Ratri again. And as I mentioned earlier, Surya Nakshatra Varjitaha. It's a very beautiful explanation. When the sun has also not risen and the stars are also not visible, that means clearly the Ratri is over. So the stars have gone away, but the sun has also not completely come up. So we can't say that the morning has completely dawned. So that in between state, between these two times. So this is from a timing perspective. And even the Amara Kosha, when we look at the Sandhya, the term, it speaks about Pranna, Aparanna, Madhyanna, Trisandhyam. It speaks about Trisandhya, the three aspects of Sandhya, which is Pranna, the morning part, Aparanna, the after day part, and Madhyanna, the intermediate part. Trisandhyam speaks about these three sandhis, or these three joinings. Now this is from a perspective of time, how sandhi or sandhya is translated. Now, if I take what is the essence of that, what does it mean? Is it just about the time? Is it just about the morning time, afternoon and evening time? So what? So what is so great about these times? That is where the second etymological explanations of sandhya comes. Sandhi, sam, purvakam. The upasarga is sam, and dhi, indicating buddhi. So samyak. So in the right way, or in an auspicious way, or in a proper way, the intellect is being guided or inspired or taken ahead. That is the meaning, another etymological meaning of sandhi. Or sandhya, if I take samyak dhyayanti, the time that is most suitable for dhyana, or for contemplation, or for meditation, that is sandhya. Samyak dhyayanti, the time that is most beneficial, or it naturally poses itself for meditation. That is the beauty of these three joinings. So it is not just about joining the morning and the afternoon, morning and the night, or the forenoon and the afternoon. So what? It's a natural phenomena. But there is something beautiful about these natural phenomena, which the rishis have identified as the right timings present in nature already, which we can leverage upon. Now, the other side, you can always argue, is dhyana possible only when you do in sandhya? No. The more you progress spiritually, dhyana is eternal. You can keep on being in that flow of dhyana. But these are the steps. This helps you in the initial stages of the sadhaka on the spiritual journey. These times are beneficial by itself. That is why even in the Gita, when the Lord says, Shuchau Deshe, when he says that please take a nice place, a proper place, an auspicious place, and then do dhyana, does it mean it doesn't come otherwise? No, it comes. But he is telling you what are the favorable aspects. So that is what these different aspects have been told to us by the rishis, which are favorable, so that our spiritual progress can be faster. So this is the other aspect of sandhya. Now, in this aspect, there is a beautiful, I would say, story, or a beautiful verse that comes in the Taittiriya Aranyakam, which speaks about a very nice imagery. The imagery is that there were two Rakshasas. They were called as Mandeha. The term, the two Rakshasas were called as Mandeha. And they propitiated Brahma, and they got a varam, a boon from Brahma, that they have to fight. They should be able to fight Aditya or Surya. Brahma says, okay. And they started fighting Surya. But when to fight Surya? You should always fight the enemy when he is weakest, isn't it? When he is the strongest point, what is the point in fighting him? So how to make, what is the weak point of Surya? So-called weak point of Surya is when he's rising and when he's setting. He's just coming up. He is the Bala Surya, the Bala Arka, in both the times. So in both these times, these Mandeha Rakshasas, they wage a war against Surya. So this paragraph from the Taittiriya Aranyaka says, Brahmavadinaha, the knowers of Brahman, they face the east in the morning. Purva abhimukha sandhyayam Gayatriya abhimantrita apaha. They take the water which is sanctified with the Gayatri mantram and they pour in that direction of the east when the sun is rising, because these Rakshasas are fighting Surya. So what happens to this waters? Apo vajri bhutva. They become like thunderbolts. They get transformed into thunderbolts. This Arkhya Pradhana gets transformed into thunderbolts, and Mandeharune dvipe prakshipanti. It attacks the Rakshasas, and the Rakshasas are thrown into a dvipa called Aruna. So they're thrown away, and the sun is protected so that it can rise and fulfill the activities of the world, of the universe. So this beautiful episode comes, in the Taittiriya Aranyakam. Now, if you look at a bit more in detail, so this looks like a story, but there are many messages from the story. First is Mandeha. The term itself is beautiful. Manas Dehaha. A beautiful combination of Manas and Deha is Mandeha. The mind and the body are the Rakshasas. That is preventing something from happening. What is it preventing? It is preventing from your true self getting realized. It is preventing from the Atman shining. So you're constantly identifying either with yourself with the body, or you're identifying yourself with your mind, the activities of the mind. So when these two are thrown away, are removed away, then the Atman, the Surya, which is in the Vedantic parlance, Surya is considered to be Atma. Surya Atma Jagadas Takshu Chaksha. This is what we say when we are doing our Sandhya Vandanam, that mantram also comes. Surya Atma. Surya is considered to be the Atman. Chandra is the Manas. That is how the common imagery or the equivalence happens. So this Surya then shines forth. So the Atman shines forth. So when you are doing this Arghya Pradhana, you are able to realize your true nature by removing the wheel of mind and the body. The other message here is that you are not performing this Arghya Pradhana for your own benefit alone. What are you performing it for? So that the sun can rise and give light to the whole world. So you are doing it as a Loka Hita. It is for Lokopakaram. It is not for one's own benefit and for getting one's own Aishwaryam or wealth or prosperity. No. It is for the benefit of the entire universe that the Brahmanas or Brahmavadins have to do this. So that entire Sandhyopasana which involves all this is nothing but a Paropakaram. It is not for one's own benefit, but in the process, you spiritually progress. That is the hidden meaning behind this. So this is the beautiful story from the Aranyaka. Now we saw these meanings of Sandhya. In his Sandhyavandana Bhashyam, Vedanti Sitarama Shastri, when he is explaining, he says, Yadyapi Sandhya Shabdaha Kalavachi, it is indicative of time. And that is what we saw till now, that how the time influences us and how we should leverage the time. Tathapi, Tasmin Kale Upasya Devata Sandhya Shabdena Upalakshate. So the Sandhya also indicates the Devata. See, Devata is a beautiful word in our Vedic tradition. Devata does not mean a photo of a god, which we commonly identify today, or a sculpture or an image of a god. That is not Devata. Devata is anything that is worshipable. Anything that is worshipped is Devata. Devata itself comes from Dipyamana, the one that is effulgent. Effulgent in the sense of what? One that you feel is most revered or worshipable becomes a Devata. In the Vedic Suktas, even the pestle and mortar, etc., which you use to create the Soma Rasa, also is a Devata, because it is most worshipable, because it is giving the Soma Rasa. So it doesn't necessarily indicate only the gods of modern day. So Devata is any worshipable entity is a Devata. So even that Kalam, that Sandhya Kalam is a Devata. That Sandhya time is a Devata. Related to this, the Puranas. Naturally, the Puranas will take these ideas and give in a more beautiful imagery way or a story way so that we can understand it more easily. So there is a beautiful story in the Shiva Purana, Rudra Samhita Sati Kanda, that speaks about the birth of Sandhya. And here it says that Sandhya was born of Brahma. She was born to Brahma as his daughter, along with Kamadeva. See the beauty. One is creating desire and another one is Sandhya, which is on the spiritual progress. Both are born of Brahma. However, because of the overpowering of Kamadeva or overpowering of the desire, because he was born earlier, because of that overpowering of desire, even Brahma and other sages also started desiring Sandhya, which was not acceptable. So she forsakes this entire, she wants to give up her whole life. And she says that I have this wretched life where everybody is desiring me, even my brothers and father. So this is not a good life to be. So she performs penance towards Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is very happy with her penance. He appears before her and he declares her to be the purest woman because of her tapas. So Sandhya is equivalent to tapas, penance that she does to Shiva. And Shiva then grants her the boon that she will soon be born as Sati and then later on as Parvati, and he himself will marry her and she will become his wife. So she, after this boon is granted to her, she doesn't want to remain in that body which has undergone this wretched experience. So she jumps into the fire. This all in an imagery part is how we should visualize. Her body ascends to the Surya Loka, and at that time it is made into two. One becomes Pratas Sandhya, which is auspicious to the gods or the Devas, and the other is Sayam Sandhya, which is auspicious to the mains or the Pitrus. So the Pratas Sandhya is more suited or more used for the Deva Puja, and the Sayam Sandhya more for the Pitru Puja. That is what the Purana says. And interestingly, when you look at Sandhya, its various meanings in the Amarakosha also. Sayam Sandhya Pitru Prasuhu, it says Pitru Prasuhu, means she is the mother of the Pitrus. That is how the explanation of Sandhya is given. So Sayam Sandhya. So there also a relationship is established between the Pitrus and Sandhya in the Amarakosha and also the Shabdaranava. So that is how she splits into two parts, says the Puranas. And then she takes birth as Arundhati, marries Vasishta, then Sati, and then Parvati, and she marries Shiva. So this is the story of Sandhya that we find in the Puranas. But when we look at Sandhya Upasana or Vandana, the Devata is not Sandhya there. Though it is the overall Devata is Sandhya of the Kala, when we do the Sandhya Vandana or Upasana, you will find that the core of the Sandhya Upasana is not about Sandhya, is not visualizing the Devata called Sandhya. What stands at the core is Savitri Mantra. The Savitri Mantra is at the core of Sandhya. Why did the Rishis keep Savitri Mantra at the core of Sandhya? See, we explained, what did we say? We said that the Sandhya time, be it the morning, be it the afternoon, or be it the dusk time, is the most suitable time given by nature for us to progress spiritually, for us to progress inwardly and make development. When such a time is available naturally, what would you do? You would do the best possible thing in that time rather than trying to do a suboptimal thing. What is the best possible thing at that time? So the Rishis identified, or through their intuition and through their darshana, the Savitri Mantra is considered to be the key for the entire Veda Rashi. By constant sadhana of upasana of the Savitri Mantra itself, you can open the entire truths or the mysticism behind the Veda mantras. That is why the Savitri Mantra is considered to be the mother of mantras. Gayatrim Chandasam Mata. Now here there are two things. Savitri Mantra we say Gayatri Mantra. Savita or Savitri is the Devata. The Gayatri is a Chandas. Chandas is a meter. All the Veda mantras are in the form of meters. That is why they are also called as Chandas, because they are all in the form of meters. So the Chandas, the meter itself applies to the Vedas also, because all the Vedic mantras are also in the form of meters. So they call as Chandas. Gayatri Chandasam Mata. She is the mother of the Vedas. She is Veda Mata. So the Savitri Mantra, which has got the Savita as the Devata, which has Vishwamitra as the Rishi, who was the one who saw Darshanat Rishihi, the one who saw this mantra and gave it to us, and which has the Chandas of Gayatri. Here also the Chandas is it's when we chant for those who are chanting the Sandhya Vandana mantra, they know that it is a Nichrut Gayatri. It is not Sampurna Gayatri also. It is not 24 aksharas. It is 23 aksharas. You will have one akshara less. And that one akshara gets completed by the Omkara and the Vyahritis, which you are chanting before the Mula Mantra. Those are more of technical details. But Savitri Mantra at the core. So Savitri Mantra forms the basic, the center part of the Sandhyopasana, the Gayatri Japam along with the Vyahritis. But see the beauty and the ingenuity of our rishis. If you had just kept that mantra, okay, that mantra is there, but what is the adhikari rakshana for that mantra? If that mantra has to fructify, what are the other things you need to do? If you tell them that these are the things you need to do and then you come to chant the mantra, they will never come, because that will keep going on. The qualifications will never be attained and people will very easily give it away, saying that I am not qualified to do it, hence I am not doing it. This is how we have lost most of our traditional aspect also, because we believe we will neither take the effort to do it, nor will we acknowledge that we have not taken the effort. We will just say that we are not capable of it. So what did the rishis do? They said that there is a nitya karma. We are going to form a nitya karma, a ritual, which you have to do from A to Z. In that A to Z, there is a central portion of this Gayatri Japam, which is the core. But they formed an entire ritual around it, which can make you suitable or make you eligible towards the Gayatri Mantram also. That is what you find in the Purvardha and Uttarardha part. So you start the various aspects of the Sandhyopasana as a ritual, as a karma. You have the aspects of Achamana, you have the aspects of Marjanam or Prokshanam, you have the aspects of Arghya Pradana, Tarpana, you have the aspects of Pranayama, you have the aspects of Japa, and you have the aspects of Suryopasana. These are all included within the Sandhyopasana as a karma, as a ritual. Starting right from your Achamana, as you can see, even by pictures, when you see this itself, you can understand what kind of a physical exercise this is, from the first image till the last image. And the other beauty that I have indicated in all the yellow stickers or in the orange stickers are, they beautifully codified this in the form of Ashtanga Yoga. Today we go behind yoga classes. There is no yoga class needed here. They said that this ritual is a yoga class in itself, because it encompasses everything, right from your yama niyamas, asana, your pranayama, your pratyahara, your dharana, dhyana. Your Gayatri itself starts from pratyahara, dharana, dhyana and takes you till samadhi. The various stages of the Gayatri. Because initially the child, when he's initiated into the Upanayana and he comes into this, he's only going to chant it because he's asked to chant it. But as he keeps chanting it, he moves from stage to stage. And that is what we saw earlier, Sandhya. We saw that Samyak Dhyayanti. It gives you the beautiful time for dhyana. And the Gayatri mantra that takes you to dhyana, to samadhi, is clubbed together. So Sandhya, the time, and Gayatri, the carrier or the main instrument that takes you to that supreme state of samadhi, both are clubbed together and given in the form of Sandhyopasana. So this is the ingenuity of our rishis in the form of Sandhyopasana. And what did they do? They did all this and they said that this is Nitya Karma. You cannot leave this karma. Even if you want to, you cannot do away with this karma. Then we always have the question, so if we don't do this, then do we have a prayashchitta? That is the most common question that we ask. They said there is no prayashchitta. You will incur dosha. If you are not doing this, you will incur dosha. That is fine. That is understood. Then what is a prayashchitta? There is no prayashchitta. Because if you do this, you don't get anything. They said. They defined it very beautifully. They said, the Nitya Karma means if you do this, you don't get anything. If you don't do this, you will get dosha. It is like our IPC rules, right? Today, if you follow the rule, you don't get anything great by following the rule. You're just following the rule. But if you don't follow the rule, you have to pay the fine. So it is that kind of thing. But that is why they call it Pratyavaya dosha. They said that this dosha is Pratyavaya. This term itself is beautiful, and maybe Srinivasan sir later on can maybe enlighten us more on this term. But whatever little I have understood is Prati Avaya. Ava is to protect, Avatumam. So one that protects it's Prati Avaya. It is opposite of protection. It stops all protection. Basically, it is what? it is the Atman, you have those different shields. That is the Man Deha that we spoke about, the Manas, Deham, everything. The Sandhya Upasana, it helps remove all those wheels and shows you the true light. When you don't do the Sandhya Upasana, the wheel still remains, and that becomes a dosha. Then you are not able to see your true self. It is just like the vessel. If you don't keep making it shining every day, it loses its luster. It is not that it is not lustrous, it's that the luster is covered with dust. So that is the dosha. The dust comes into us very easily and it blocks the Atman. So that kind of beautiful concept the rishis gave us in the form of Sandhyopasana. When you trace the evolution of this was a very interesting topic for me, because we are doing Sandhya Vandanam is okay. We have the books published by Giri and everybody. We take cassettes and we do. But where did it come from? How did it come from? Is there some original source for it? So as I was tracing back, there was few references from the Vedas itself, which spoke about from the Upanishads specifically, and Aranyakas and all we just saw now, a few examples. Upanishad, Brahmavadino vadanti yad vasunam pratas savanam rudranam adhyandyanam savanam adityanam cha vishvesham cha devanam tritiyas savanam. So it speaks about 3 savanas, 3 yajnas that are performed in the morning, afternoon and evening. It doesn't say Sandhya Vandana, it just says savanas. So this is one indicator. It alludes to something like this. It doesn't mean Sandhya Vandanam. Then we come to the Smriti, because in Vedic period, the fire worship or the yajna was the main mode of worship at that point of time. So one thought that came to me was probably those savanas have got transformed into the modern day Sandhya Vandanam of the 3 times where you are worshipping that Agni is nothing but whatever you are worshipping through water, through Tarpana, Arghya, Pradhana to Surya, which is another form of Agni. Smritis and Sutra literature, you find explicit mention of Sandhya worship or Sandhya Upasana or Sandhya Vandana. Method of performing with water rituals, Achamana, all these different explanations are given in the Smritis and Sutra literature, and importance of Gayatri Mantra, that is also given. Itihasa Purana, you have examples or illustrations of Rama having performed Sandhya Vandana, Krishna having performed Sandhya Vandana, Sita having performed Sandhya Vandana. So many examples here and there, they keep on quoting. So the Puranas, Itihasas also mention about it. Puranas, of course, they have detailed. I think it's the Devi Purana, I think, where they have certain chapters dedicated for Sandhya Vandana or Sandhyopasana. But the current form of Sandhya Vandana, probably the later Acharyas have played a bigger role in codifying and structuring this Sandhya Vandana that we have today. That is, if you belong to Yajurveda, you have this kind of Sandhya Vandana, these mantras will be there, Samaveda, if you belong to Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So these all differences and slight modifications here and there, all this is probably a contribution of the later Acharyas, making it into a holistic Nitya Karma rather than just parts. References, as I mentioned, in the Itihasas and Puranas, Valmiki Ramayana, the famous shloka in which the Suprabhadam itself starts, Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartade, before Sandhya comes, Uttishta Narashardula Kartavyam Daivam Anhikam. The Sandhya Vandana is referred by the term Anhika. Anhika means something that has to be performed daily. Anhikam. So that is Anhikam, you will find at multiple places especially in the Balakanda. When Vishwamitra is taking Rama and Lakshmana, at multiple places you will find Valmiki mentioning that they did Anhika, they performed Anhika, they performed Japa. Because the beautiful thing there is that the Rishi of Gayatri Mantra is also Vishwamitra. And Vishwamitra is taking Rama and Lakshmana. So he makes sure that they chant Gayatri Mantra at the right points of time when they have been done the Upanayana. So it's a beautiful way that even Valmiki Ramayana brings this together. Japetuhu Paramam Japam. In another place it says, the Paramam Japam, it doesn't say Gayatri or Savitri, it says Paramam Japam. That means the highest of the Japa is performed. Upasyasa Shivam Sandhyam Vishayantam Vyagahata. So multiple places you find in the Valmiki Ramayana. Mahabharata Udyoga Parva, when Krishna is going towards the Hastinapura, towards the north, it says that at one place he stopped. He came down from the chariot and Sandhyam Upavivesha. He saw the Sandhya, he performed the Sandhya and then resumed his journey. Because it was there for Dvijas, it was there for the Varnas of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. For all the 3 Varnas, the Upanayana was there and they were supposed to perform the Sandhya. And Puranas, of course, they don't have any lesser mention of it. They mention it in abundance. Nagatriya Paramam Japam na Vyahritihi. So they say that there is nothing bigger than the Gayatri as the Japa and the Vyahrtis. Evam Sandhyam Vidhim Kritva Gayatrim Cha. So they keep on explaining the phala or the benefit that you get by chanting the Gayatri mantra or the performing the Sandhya Vidhi that you find in the Puranas. Now coming quickly to the modern relevance, because this is a very important, because these all is nice for us to know, but how do you make the next generation Upanayana, one who has been given the Upanayanam, how do you make him do it? First thing is his father also should do it. The people in the house also should do it. Otherwise, it is wrong of expecting the child only to do it. So there is a very important aspect here, which I will say along with this. We call it Brahmopadesha in Upanayana. Other things you have an Upadesha, the mantra Upadesha, you give a mantra. The name of the mantra will come. But here it is called Brahmopadesha. Why is it called Brahmopadesha? Because this mantra can lead you till Brahma. It can lead you till Brahma Sakshatkara. That is why it is called Brahmopadesha. And this Brahmopadesha is given by the Acharya to the father. The father gives it to the son. So the Acharya also should be an Anubhavashali, means he also must have chanted and done Siddhi. That is what the our ancestors tell, that the Acharya must be a Siddhi. He must have attained Siddhi in the Gayatri Japam. The father must have attained Siddhi in the Gayatri Japam. Then the child, if you tell him, if you are giving this Upadesha to the child, even if the child does not want, he will continue doing it. Something inside him will force him to do it. But if the Acharya also has not done and the father has also not done, then it is wrong to expect the child to keep doing this Japam. Unless he has got some Vasana or Sukrutam from the previous birth, he will continue doing it. So anyway, so I thought it is important for us to also understand the relevance of these various aspects of the Ashtanga Yoga. I have already mentioned that all the yogic aspects are already included in the entire form of Sandhya Vandana. Achamana, the way you sit for the Achamana, between the two knees, folding your knees, and between that sitting and performing the Achamana. Antarjanuhu. This is where all your bones and all your joints are given strength, and this is what you sit in that position continuously and you perform this Purvardha. So that is the method of performing is mentioned in the Smritis. The quality of water, how you should take the water without foam, without bubbles. So what kind of water should be taken? And benefits. We know that sipping of water by taking the Lord's name and Achyutananda Govinda, it comes in the, when you are chanting the Achamanam itself, you say Achyutaya Namaha, Anantaya Namaha, Govindaya Namaha, and you know Achyutananda Govinda, Namocharana Bheshajad, Nashyanti Sakala Rogaha, Satyam Satyam Vadamyaham, it comes elsewhere. When you are chanting the Vishnu Purana and other places. So if you bring this both together, you find that they have incorporated in the Achamanam itself a way for you to remain Roga Mukta from the water intake aspect. Then the Apohishta, the Prokshanam. In this Apohishta, you are sprinkling water on your face and you are trying to make your face fresh. But it's not just about the physical freshness. You're chanting it with mantras. Surabhino Mukhakarat, your face becomes very fragrant and your face becomes very effulgent. So these mantras, though they may not specifically be relevant for Prokshana in the actual Vedic Suktas, they have been taken by the Rishis in that context because there are few words that are indicative of Prokshana or indicative of giving freshness. So you have Prokshana. Then you have Pranayama. Pranayama, you know, today of Anulom, Vilom and all those things, you keep seeing so many people doing it, but it is there in the Sandhya Vandanam already. You're supposed to do 10 times Pranayama in the Prata Sandhya, in the Madhyanika Sandhya, and the Sayam Sandhya. So 30 Pranayamas are already done if you were doing the Sandhya Vandana properly. And even from a proper Acharya, he will also tell you how the Pranayama should be done when you're doing the Sandhya Vandana. Because you have the Gayatri Mantra, which is preceded by the Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Ogum Suvaha, that kind of mantras. And also it is succeeded by a few mantras. So when you are chanting a pranayama with this entire set of mantras, and in each, when you're inhaling and you're retaining and you're exhaling, the Puraka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka, in each of the time, what mantras have to be chanted, automatically it will come to the ratio that is expected of you to keep your breaths, because the mantras are designed that way, to keep that matras. The matras of the mantras will define the time duration also. And when you are performing this Puraka, you're keeping the Kumbhaka and Rechaka. Naturally, when you are doing the Pranayama and you're chanting the mantra, you cannot chant the mantra verbally, because you can't chant the mantra verbally and do the Pranayama. So automatically it means that you are supposed to chant the mantra in your mind, which is considered the highest form of mantra japa, not the verbal chanting. So verbal chanting loudly is the adhama form of mantra japa. Madhyama form of mantra japa is to just move your lips without the sound being heard. The highest form of mantra japa is when you are chanting it inside. Mentally you are chanting it. That is when the mind remains focused. Because if you're chanting it outside, the outside mouth will keep chanting, but your mind has gone elsewhere. So how to keep the mind focused? It's only when the mind is chanting the mantra. So that is the antar japa, when you're doing it internally, the manasika japa. Then you have the Suryopasana. Suryopasana is nothing new. So many cultures and civilizations have taken Suryopasana as the crux of their tradition and civilization. And even in ours, as I said, Surya Atma, it's considered as equivalent to Atma itself. The Valmiki Ramayana, you have the Aditya Hridayam, which is entirely on Surya, on Aditya, and then Rama goes to fight Ravana, and given by Agastya himself. So such a divine mantra, divine hymn that is given. And even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavanaham avyayam. I gave this Brahmajnanam first to vivasvate, vivasvan, which is nothing but Surya. So Surya was the first recipient of Brahmajnana from Narayana, from the Lord himself. And that is when it then further came down. And the Taittiriya Upanishad says, Sayashchayam Purushe Yascha Savaditye Sayekaha. The one who is there in the sun and the one who is there in me are the same. So the Brahman, the identification of Brahman. So Suryopasana is leading you to that. And of course, Savitri. I don't have to say again about Savitri or the Gayatri mantra. Lot of places where the greatness of the Gayatri mantra or the Savitri mantra in the Gayatri Chandas is mentioned. Now, this is all about Sandhya Vandana. So some of you might ask, so is Sandhya only about Sandhya Vandana? Because these aspects of Sandhya Vandana as a ritual or as a Ashtanga Yoga I have presented elsewhere, and it is focused on the ritual. But what about Sandhya? We started with Sandhya as the theme. See, Sandhya, we started with the theme and we said that Sandhya is the most suitable time given by nature for us to do our spiritual practices. That is why you have the Brahma Muhurta, the yogic practices that you do in the morning, the evening, the lighting of the lamp, sitting in front of the deity, chanting the mantra japas, chanting the nama japas. Even a small child, whether he is invested with the Yagnopavita or not, you make him sit in front of the Lord and chant. You put a vibhuti or a kunkuma in his forehead and you make him chant some mantra in the evening, because that is the time that is most suitable given by nature to us. Now, how it is suitable, this is more of an experiential aspect that we'll have to see. Probably in the morning is when your entire night, all the entire, the stupor, the inertia and everything of night is gone, and the freshness and vigor of morning is yet to set in. And for those people who are in the spiritual sadhana, they will know that this is the time when you are moving from your vasanamaya sharira, all your swapna and everything, you are coming to Jagrat Avastha. That is for a very short period of time when, for a glimpse or for a few seconds, you will be without thoughts. There will be no thoughts of swapna or anything, and the Jagrat hasn't set yet. That is the time where you can do Atma Dhyana the most suitable way, because that is the time when everything becomes blank for a moment, and then something inside is given clear darshana comes in the morning part. So that is the morning aspect. Evening aspect is when you have finished a day's journey, a tiring day's journey, and now you're settling for the night. That is a time when you have time to recollect, to think back what happened. So you have a time of reflection, introspection that you can do in the evening. So evening time is another. There is another here aspect that I want to say in the evening time, which is a reference from the Srimad Bhagavata Purana. A reference comes where there is a episode of Diti wanting to have a sexual relationship with her husband Kashyapa during the evening time. So Kashyapa says that this time is not the right time for these kind of activities, because this is only for doing mantra japa and all kind of auspicious things. We are not supposed to do this at this point of time. But he heeds to her wish at that time. He says, he gives a reason why it should not be done. He says, Etasyam sadhvi sandhyayam bhagavan bhuta bhavanaha parito bhuta parshadbihi vrishena atati bhutarat. The time of Sandhya Kalam, which we call as Pradosha Kala, there is a Pradosha time also which appears, twice in a month. It's a time of Rudra. That is a time when Rudra, along with his Ganas, along with his Bhuta Ganas, is roaming around, is wandering around everywhere. That Lord when he is coming, at that point of time, you have to be venerable, you have to be worshipable to him. You have to worship him and see his beautiful form and offer your oblations and your prostrations to him, and not deviate or not put your mind into anything else, any other mundane activities. So that is the time when Rudra, every day in the Sandhya Kalam, he does a round around everywhere. So that is the time when we have to worship him, says Kashyapa in the Bhagavata Purana. So that is one relevance or one reference we get to the Sandhya Kalam related to Parameshwara and Pradosha Kala also. Narasimha Murthy, we know the story about him asking neither for the day or the night, and Narasimha Murthy coming in the Sandhya Kalam. The joining part where he did not ask for, at that time he comes, that means that time exists. It is not that after day it immediately becomes night. There is a time when there is Surya Nakshatra Varjitaha, when there is a time when there is in between state, when Narasimha Murthy comes. So that is victory of good over evil. So praying to the Lord at that point of time. And Narasimha Murthy also, even today, if you look at the temples of Narasimha, you'll find that the Pradosha Kala or Sandhya Kala, especially Pradosham, a lot of pujas and worship is done to Narasimha Murthy in the Vaishnava Sampradaya and Parameshwara in the Shaiva Sampradaya. Then lighting of the lamp. Lighting of the lamp, as you all know, Asadoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Take me from the darkness to light, which is the message of the Pratha Sandhya. When you're moving from the Tamas into Sattva, into when Surya is arriving, when the Atman is shining, you're moving into that state. That is the message given by Pratha Sandhya. So Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya gives the message of the light. So this is what I had in the little time that I have. I tried to give a glimpse of the various aspects of what Sandhya is and how we should leverage this beautiful treasure that has been given down to us and make use of it to the best of our abilities and for our own development and progress. Namaskaram.
Thank you so much, Subramanian, for that very quick review. I now request Dr. Srinivasan to give his expert comments.
Friends, say with regard to Mr. Subramaniam, 2 or 3 of his qualities stand out. First, he has studied Vedas nearly for about 8 years. Entirely, he has committed Samaveda to memory. He has learnt it properly, and then from proper gurus. And then, of course, not only that, he has studied Sanskrit and Vedanta also. He had a degree in postgraduate degree in Vedanta. Both these things together make him a really perfect candidate for presenting this particular topic. And so that itself speaks. There is no further need for an expert commentary and all those things, because he is very well qualified and he is an expert himself. But there are many things I have learned. So instead of saying that what is called the expert comment, etc., I have learned a lot. So let me share what I have learned from this presentation of Sandhya, its origin and development, its rituals and all those things. Not only that, he has specialized on this particular thing for so many years, speaking on Ashtanga Yoga in Sandhya and other modern relevance of Sandhya and things like that. He is really concentrating on delving deep, not only as a ritual, but as an academic subject also. He is delving deep into this particular thing. Hence, and last in the first meeting we had Madhura Vijayam by Ganga Devi. It is nearly about 9 cantos and speaks of Kumara Kampana's exploits. And I think in the 6th canto or somewhere, I don't remember exactly, but somewhere, where Kumara Kampana, before proceeding on the expedition, that is expedition to Madura, he performs. He wants to enjoy himself and he wants to recuperate and rejuvenate himself. He enters into Jalakrida. And Jalakrida also is one of the aspects or characteristics of Mahakavya. So in order to explain the characteristic of a Mahakavya, Ganga Devi explains the Jalakrida performed by Kumara Kampana. So he spends a few hours in the waters. But the next point is important. After completing Jalakrida, Ganga Devi, it has become an evening time, and Ganga Devi describes that he did not forget to perform Sandhya worship. That is right from Jalakrida, after purifying himself, he started performing Sandhya worship. And then how important it is for Ganga Devi, who is accompanying her husband on the military march and who is what is called serving like a war correspondent. It is not only a Mahakavya. You can find she acts as a war correspondent to cover the entire war of Kumara Kampana. But even in the midst of all these turbulent times, she did not forget, nor did he forget performing Sandhya and describing Sandhya. Then we can understand how important the concept of Sandhya is. And this is one important aspect. That is, what I have presented is not what I'm going to present is. That is, in the traditional things, the basic problem is Veda vibhinnaha, Rishayo vibhinnaha, Naiko munir yasya vachah pramanam. The Vedas are numerous, that is, Shastras are numerous. And the Rishis who have seen these Vedas and who have explained the meaning or explained the ideas of the Vedas, that is Smriti. Veda or Shruti, they are Apaurushaya, they are directly seen. He also has said Darshanad Rishigi, Rishayo Mantra Drashtaraha. They are called seers, they are not called composers or writers. They are called seers. And these other Rishis, they what is called whatever knowledge they get from Veda, whatever they remember, they bring it out. So they are called, it is called Smriti, whatever is remembered and presented, but they are Paurushaya. So Veda vibhinnaha, Rishayo vibhinnaha, and whom do you quote as authoritative? That is, we have to follow. That is Mahajano yena gathassa pantaha. The best thing is, whatever your parents, whatever your elders, whatever your ancestors have done in your city or in your village or in your house, that alone is pramana. In fact, in the Apastamba in his Dharma Sutra says, Na dharma dharmau akase charataha avam swaha. Dharma and adharma are not flying in the sky saying, I am dharma, I am adharma, so follow me, don't follow him like that. That is, nobody is declaring what is dharma and what is adharma. Yam aryah prasamsanti sa dharmaha, yam vigarhanti sa adharmaha. Those the village elders praise, that is which they appreciate or which they suggest as thing to be done is dharma, and those which they decry is adharma. This is essentially applicable to all the relevant things also. That is in the case the many of the interpretations or many of the ideas presented by our speaker, Mr. C. Subramaniam. Sandhya is essentially, he has presented as, in the first initially, he has taken Sandhya as some plus, that is Sandhi. Sandhi means joining together, coming together. So when coming together in that sense of Sandhi, that is Sandhi, Sandhi worship, Sandhi Stotra. Sandhi Stotra is there in the Vedas, in the Yagas, and Sandhi is also there. Sandhi yate prajaya pasubir brahma varchasena anna. Something like that, he is being united with. So Sandhiyate means he is being united with. In that sense, you have got this particular aspect also. That is Samhitopasana. So in that sense, day and night, joining of day and night, that is one thing. And Samdhi, Samyak Dhiyate, that is where our intellect works properly, our intellect works nicely. That also is Sandhi. And he has quoted Vedanti Sitarama Sastri's. That is Sandhya is also Upalakshyate. That is Devata is referred to as Sandhya. So all the three are taken as Sandhya. And if you look into dictionaries, all the three are given as the meaning of Sandhya, no doubt about it. But traditionally, Sandhya is always taken as the Devata which is being worshipped. Not very, I mean, time also is there. Sandhya Vandana, Sandhya Kalaha, everything is there. But Devata, it is taken as Devata. But he has taken Sandhya is not specifically as what is called, while speaking of Devata, he said this Devata is not like that phototype, that is the even like pestle and mortar, as everything is referred to as Devata, like that Sandhya also is referred to in such a respect, extended concept
as everything, time, objects, etc. are referred to as Devata, so also is referred to as Devata. But I think Sandhya, in the traditional viewpoint, Sandhya becomes a bit more of a different regular Devata. As Ushas, Ushas has got many what is called hymns in the Rig Veda, and they are very beautiful, poetically beautiful hymns. So like that, the Ushas might have developed as Sandhya later. So in that concept, Sandhya is a regular deity that is, and that comes from Gyai Chintayam. The Sandhi, etc., comes from different aspect, but Sandhya as a Devata, etc., Gyai Chintayam. So Dhyai Chintaya means concept meditating, etc., where Devata is meditated upon. And that's the point is Kalasya Tisro Bharyaha. They say time has got 3 wives. That is the morning Sandhya, Madhyanika Sandhya, afternoon Sandhya. These 3 Sandhyas are considered to be the wives of time. So in order to give importance, that is take over time, that is in order to, if you want to conquer time, then what happens? You have to do worship. That is always we can what is called, or I mean what is called conquering possible. Maybe when we what is called, that is as Hanuman has accepted Sita, that is as Hanuman accepted, I mean approached Rama through Sita, it should be easier through Sandhya worship to conquer the time, which he has explained by quoting the Taittiriya Aranika story of Mandeha Harune Dvipe Vikshidanti Yat Pradakshanam Prakramanti Tena Papmanam Avzunanti, etc., etc. But one thing, Mandeha, well, beautifully, I think I am hearing that explanation for the first time. That is, Mandeha is not ordinarily, there are 2 demons, but sometimes in some of the books, there are multiples of demons. It is presented as multiples of demons. But he said 2 demons, and Manu and Deha, these 2 have come. That is, mind and body have come together, and mind and body, like Ajnana, as the Ajnana shields the Atman, so also this Manu and Deha, these 2 are the demons, and they are trying to shield, that is, take us away, take ourselves away from the Jnana. So we have to conquer them. That is what is presented, Mandeharana. But there, before that, I would like to say one thing. And he said the Mandeharana is not only to save ourselves, not only what is called to get the knowledge directly from by throwing these Mandehas, but also for Lokahita. Say in the ritual called obscure, that is in the Tarpana, that is in the Amavasya, etc., water libations are offered for ancestors. When the water libations are offered for ancestors, there is one mantra. It is called Upasthana mantra. Namo Pitaro Rasaya, Namo Pitara Sushmaya, Namo Pitaro Jivaya, Namo Pitara Swadhaya, Namo Pitaro Manyave, Namo Pitaro Ghoraya. There is a mantra like this. This mantra, it may appear like the individual is offering water libation and then he is praying for the welfare of his ancestors. But now it is not just what is called the praying for the welfare of his ancestors or welfare of his family with the blessings of his ancestors, but it is also praying for the welfare of whole humanity. Namo Pitaro Rasaya. Rasa means spring season. So Rasaya means the ancestors are the men who are occupying or who have got Vasantakala as their Adhisthana. So Rasoham Apsu Kaunteya, says Krishna in Gita. So Rasa is the spring season. So the men and ancestors who are in spring season, Sushmaya, Sushma means drying, dry season. That is summer. Jivaya, Kananam, Jivanam, Vanam. Jivanam means water. So Jivaya means rainy season. Swadhaya, it is autumnal season. Manyave and Ghoraya, very frightening, that is winter season. So it is prayer to all the 6, what is called, all the 6 seasons, Pitrus of all the 6 seasons, and indirectly and or directly, in whatever way, it is praying for all the welfare of all the people, not the welfare of particular people or particular group or particular family alone. In fact, when we perform marriage or Upanayana and other ceremonies, and always these marriage and Upanayana ceremonies have to be completed with Etat Karma Sambuddhyartam Jayadi Homam Karishye. It is called Jayadi Homa. 55 ahutis are performed. In the main Homa, it will be 8 ahutis only, or 1 or 2. But here 55 Hamutis, in the 55 Hamutis are for the sake of some Gandharvas and Apsaras. So the Gandharvas and Apsaras are Adhishtana Devatas, are Adhikarika Purushas. They are the people who have been appointed by the Supreme Ultimate Deity as in charge of different natural phenomena, and these natural phenomena become. Am I visible and audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You
Okay.
are audible.
These are different natural phenomena, and in this we are what is called praying to the Adhishtana Devatas, to the natural phenomena. Say, for example, what is called Yajño Gandharvaha, Tasya Dakshina Sarasaha. That is, sacrifice is a Gandharva. Sacrifice is taken care of by a Gandharva, and the Apsaras is Dakshina. And when we perform the sacrifice properly, this Gandharvas and Apsaras, they take care of what is called helping us. In this way, there are various Gandharvas and various Apsarasas who have been taking care of this world. So the Sandhya also is independent. I mean, in that particular sense, become one Gandharva and Apsaras. So it is not just a time, or it is not just an abstract thing presented as a Devata. And Kalidasa also says, when Shiva sends the Saptarishis to what is called Himavan, seeking Parvati's hand, there it is presented. Himavan has got three aspects. One aspect is human aspect, that is Devata aspect. Another thing is the mountainous aspect, that is Thula. And the third one is Atman aspect. So they have got these three aspects. That's how Kalidasa describes. And in the Mandeha, the problem will be if Manu and Deha are to be got over. Say, Krishna says, Uddhared Atmanatmanam Atmanam Avasadayed. Say here, Uddhared Atmana Atmanam. We have to lift Atman by Atman. So here that word by Atman happens to be mind. So it is our mind. Manayeva Manushyanam Karanam Bandhamokshayoho. It is our mind which is the instrument of sinking us or lifting us. So there is nothing called or nothing separate apart from this mind. But the problem is whether we are approaching it as an Advaitin or a Visishtadvaitin or a Advaitin or a Nayayika or a Vaiseshika or a Sankhya or a Yoga or a Mimamsaka. So what happens? They will be having different viewpoints. That's why there won't be any single approach. There won't be single interpretation. There won't be single idea. There will be as many ideas as there are human beings. And when we say this may not be right, that may not be right from whatever I subscribe to, but it may be right for other people from whatever angle they subscribe to. So we can take some common elements alone. That's why we will not be able to say this is this way, this is that way, or it has to be right like that. But okay, this is with regard to Mandeharuna. And then Ayurveda. Ayurveda, of course, it has got various things. But the first chapter, introduction, what is Ayus, definition of Ayus. If you go to the second chapter of Ayurveda, how to keep our health properly, correctly, that is maintain health, not to fall prey or not to fall victim to various diseases, how to keep ourselves. It is called Roga Anutpadaniya, second chapter, that is not succumbing to diseases, that is keeping ourselves healthy. And the first idea, they give 16 things to be followed every day, daily, what we have to do. It includes exercise and all those things also, and without any exception. Say, when we have to say Ayurveda, etc., it is not only for gents, it is not only for healthy youth or middle-aged people. It is from child onwards to elderly people, for all the people. It is for all the human beings. In fact, there are Vriksha Ayurveda, Hastya Ayurveda, and Ashwa Ayurveda. That is how to maintain health for horses, etc. That also is there. Say, when the Navaratri is over, the Navaratri is not only for dolls or not only Dandiyaras or not only Durga Puja. Navaratri is also to keep the horses healthy. But is the rainy season may disturb horses. That's why if you look into Panjangam, you may find Vaji Nirajanam. The horses are to be what is called given a camphor, and then that is in the sense camphor Nirajana. and then they have to be taken out. They have to be marched out. So the maintenance of horses, etc. So Ayurveda is for not only, say, when we pray Purusha Sukta, it is called Sanyuvaka. Sanno astu dvipade, san chatushpade. Let all bipeds be happy, let all quadrupeds be happy. Everybody has to be happy because it is the chain life. So that is even, in fact, when you street and think really something very boring with me, too much of digressions will be there, because in the pre-dinosaur period, the world was a reptilian world. The world was full of reptiles, full of serpents, and they were causing lots of disturbance for all the other jivas. So the reptiles were cursed to what is called they will die. Unless the reptiles were reduced, the world cannot become a good place for others to live. That's why the Janamedaya Sarpa Yajna was performed like that. So this is how Mahabharata also starts. So in this way, how all the natural things are also brought in, how these what we look into as modern science, that also sometimes it may be even imaginary science, or they might have intuited, or they might have seen like that and presented it. We don't know whether they have presented all those things with the what is called the experiments and the examples, but some such things are we are able to see. So such interpretations always will be there, and that becomes very, in the sense, very careful thing where we will not be able to take all these things. That is, we cannot comment easily. And if you take Achamana, he has referred to Achamana. In the Achamanam Achyutananda Govinda Namocharana Meshada Natsinti Sakala Roga Satyam Satyam Vadambiham. You might have heard from Yama Subbalakshmi's voice and all those things very often. This Achyutananda Govinda is not only Bhishma's, but it is Yama's voice also. But not all the people perform Achyutananda Govinda, Achyudaya Namaha, Anantaya Namaha, etc. Rigvedaya Swaha, Yajurvedaya Swaha, Samavedaya Swaha. That is, Shiva's names are also there. So there are as many varieties as possible. All those things. So Achamana is important. And then touching different parts of the body. Say, for example, you have to touch your cheeks with your thumb. And then with the ring finger, we have to touch our eyes. Say, now what happens? Agnir Vag Bhutva Mukham Pravisate, Adityas Chachud Bhutva Akshini Pravisate. When you take Indriyas, there are two types of Indriyas. One is physical organ, and another one is the power within the physical organ. So now Aditya is what is called the benefactor, and he gives the power. He enters into eye, that is the physical organ, and the eye starts performing. That is it starts doing its job. So now each and every organ has to be activated. So in order to think of these organs being activated, we touch all these organs with our fingers with water. Every time we have to what is called wash our hands. That is, put a drop of water in our hand and then touch the different limbs, etc. So the water, when the cool water touches all these places, that is activation of our self. Activation of our self means mind. Activation of our mind, activation of our body, and starting concentration. If the students are what is called start sleeping, the teacher may suddenly give a joke and all the students may start laughing, and what is called the sleeping student may be forced to wake up. It is like giving joke. In the same way, we also have to activate. So these sort of activations, etc., are there always. That's why this activation is not a simple activation, but they have got relevant devatas also as what is called respective things. That is, the relevant devatas are given, and the rituals are also there. Say he has referred to about the Prokshana and Argya Pradhana. Prokshana is sprinkling water on ourselves and cleaning ourselves, ritual cleaning. But fortunately for me to say something, he has left out Prasana. So thank God he has left out, he has not covered it. I will take that Prasana. That is, Prasana is Suryascha Mamanyuscha, that is one mantra, Agnischa Mamanyuscha in the evening. Say, what does that mantra say? Suryascha Mamanyuscha, Manyupatayascha, Manyukritebhyaha. We are praying to anger, Kamokarshit, Manyurakarshit. We are praying to anger and our desire. That is, Sakshi Karankala Vidavada, Sanda Karankala Undullam. That is, anger and desire, they lead us astray. So we pray to them. So don't please lead us astray. Please spare me, like that. Papebhyo Rakshantam. Yadratriya papamakarsham manasa vacha hastabhyam padbyam udarena sishna. Now we have to recollect whatever sin we have done. Whatever sin we have done, we have to recollect. We have to atone for it. We have to pray for the atonement, pray for atoning us, pray for what is called forgiving us. So the same mistake we should not commit. I am not able to avoid being a teacher. I tell my students that is only when you commit mistakes you become a student. If you are not committing mistake, you may be as well prepared for a teacher. You may commit a mistake, but the best thing is you should not commit the same mistake again. You will not be learning. The teacher and students, both of them are learning. The teacher learns how many possible ways are there to commit mistakes, but the students should not commit the same mistake again. If he commits the same mistake again, he is not learning. So the Suryascha Mamanyuscha and Agnischa Mamanyuscha, these two mantras give us an idea, that is, they give us a time that we have to evaluate ourselves, how we have conducted this day, how I have to evaluate, how I have to evolve. So they give us that particular idea. It involves within itself to evolution. Next to Papa Purusha Dahana, that is symbolically, that is not there, that is there in some traditions, not there in some traditions. Symbolically, the sinful personality is burnt out. Next comes again Prokshana, another Prokshana, Dadikravana Akarsham. That mantra is called Surabhimati. According to any tradition, Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that is Satya Swarupa, that is truth personified. And then we have evolved from it, whatever way, I'm not going into the philosophy of it. We have evolved from Brahman, that is true. The more we say lies or the lie we utter, we move away from the godliness. And in order to what is called forgive us, in order to cleanse us, this prokshana is done, and then it brings that godliness back. Of course, that idea also should be there, not just by ritual sprinkling, but the ritual tells you how to keep yourself. Godliness means the truthfulness. As they say, Anbe Sivam, love is God. So truth also is God. We have to maintain the truthfulness. So that mantra is called Surabhimati. Surabhimati is one way of keeping this particular thing, keeping this particular attitude with us. And Sandhya Vandana at no time should be missed. In fact, Mahabharata writes in the Deivatin Kural, on the 14th day of war, when the war extended into the night, when evening time has come, all the people cannot move away to perform Sandhya with water. Because if so many people, if millions of people were to pour water, so they, what is called, took the dust of the battlefield and they threw it as the Argya, Rajasa Piva. At least the Sandhya Vandana must be performed throwing dust in the air as it is the Argya. So now you can understand how important Sandhya is for that. I think I am exceeding my time. Okay, we can go on speaking like that.
There are a few questions also, sir.
Definitely.
Uh,
And
Yes.
when Hanuman enters into Ashokavana, he is not able to find Sita anywhere. That is, before Ashokavana, throughout Lanka, he searched. And he enters into Ashokavana and he is not able to see her. Then he finds a beautiful ghat on a river there. He says, Sandhya Kala Manaha Kshiprameshyati Janaki. Definitely evening twilight is coming and Janaki must be performing Sandhya Vandana, and she must be performing Sandhya Vandana only at this ghat. If I wait here, I will be able to see her. He thinks like that and he waits there. Of course, the speaker has done really very well, but the one or two differences which I pointed out are only differences of opinion, in order to say how there are differences of opinion, not for any improvement, because everything has got certain their own traditions and sampradayas, etc. So there is no question of correction or no question of improvement, etc. Everybody follows their tradition and their sampradaya. And incidentally, for the novices, say there are different traditions and sampradayas, and more people have to follow it, their own gurus. That is more important, because Acharyavan Purusho Veda, Guror Anugrahadeva Puman Purna Prajayate. man becomes total, man becomes complete, man becomes perfect with the grace of the teacher. So in order to say that, I just pointed out one or two differences, and I congratulate the speaker on his wonderful presentation, and I thank him very much for what is called enlightening me also on some of the aspects which I have not learned, and I thank the organizers. Of course, naturally, I have to say, being a speaker, audience also for waiting this much, and sorry, I have exceeded by 5 minutes of the time limit given to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. நீங்க பேசிண்டே இருக்கலாம், நாங்க கேட்டுண்டே இருக்கலாம். But there are a few questions, so I'll have to ask that. There are 3 similar questions.
For
So
me or
I'll
for-
ask, yes, for you, sir, and there is one question also for Subramaniam. These 3
he is the
questions,
main, he is the main speaker.
so he can also answer. If he chooses to, he can answer it. There are 3 questions, all similarly worded. One is that it is said women also had Upanayana ceremony and wore punal. Did they also do all these rituals, or did they do it differently from the men? The other is, as Dr. Jayashree has asked, she has mentioned that Valmiki says that Sita also did Sandhya Vandanam. Why are ladies not initiated into this practice anymore? And the third question, which is again similar, is that if chanting the Gayatri Mantra is so powerful, and women do chant nowadays, why is it that they are kept away from performing this Nitya Anushtana, this Nitya ritual? And because the Smritis are supposed to change according to the changes in society, so shouldn't there be a change with respect to this also? So there were 3 questions, all 3 related to women. So I asked it together. And there was one more question which was asked, and that is all these details which were mentioned about how Sandhya Vandanam should be done. Is it explained to the children when they do Sandhya Vandanam? Is it explained during the Upanayanam process? And do they do it exactly like how it is explained to them, or does it keep on changing according to the family traditions? So these are the 2 main questions which have come. So either Subramaniam or Sir, one of you
I've
can.
clubbed so many questions together now.
Hello, Mr. Subramaniam.
Yes, sir. So probably this aspect of the women Sandhya Vandanam, yes, in my research I've definitely found this reference is there, and I've heard from many scholars also that you have this reference in the past of women also initiated into the Sandhyopasana, them having performed Sandhya Vandanam, not just Sandhya Vandanam, various other rituals, the Shraddha ceremony also, women having the right, because the moment you are putting the Yugnopavitam and you are then eligible to perform the rituals thereon. But at what point of time this changed into only for the men, I have not come across, I have not been able to find that, and that's why I have, whenever I present this paper and I am asked this question, I don't have an answer, because I myself am trying to find out. So I would leave this question to sir to give his opinion on that. And
Okay, I take up the second question because that is simpler and easier. When the children are taught all these Sandhya Vandana details in detail, say he was referring to pranayama, and when the pranayama is performed, pranayama normally now the prana, say for example, that is called I forget the name, Sagarbhaka and Akarbha, something like that. That is with mantra and without mantra. There are 2 types of pranayamas. When with mantra means the Vyahriti, Gayatri and Gayatri Siras. All the 3 are uttered, and with all the 3 the pranayama is performed. But actually it is not with these 3 only once. The Gayatri has to be uttered 3 times. Tripate dayata pranaha pranayama sauchyate. A pranayama is the Gayatri, that is Vyahriti, Gayatri, Gayatri Siras 1, again Vyahriti, Gayatri, Gayatri Siras 2, again Vyahriti, Gayatri, Gayatri Siras 3. So we have to recite it 3 times. That is in the first, that is in the Puraka, it is Vyahriti and Gayatri, and in the Kumbhaka, Gayatri Siras entire Gayatri and the Vyakriti, and then Rechaka, it is Gayatri and what is called the Gayatri Saras. Like that. So you have to get 1:3:2. In that ratio, pranayama is to be performed. That may not be possible for the children. That is, when you initiate him at the age of 7, may not be possible for him to learn it, for him to perform all those things. Then slowly we are what is called training him. We have to bring him into the group step by step. And then when he becomes a little more, then he will be initiated into mantras. In fact, in earlier days, the ladies also, when they are married, they will be initiated. Earlier days means I don't mean the Krita Yuga or Treta Yuga, just a little 50, 60 years back. That is my grandmother's time. I think even during the times of my mother's, etc. That is, they will be initiated into Panchakshari or something like that. That is still possible in the house of, in the case of Vaishnava and his Madhva households, etc. And unless they are not initiated, they will not be entering into kitchen. They cannot be allowed to cook. So all the people, initiation is possible. Initiation is done for both gents and women. That initiation is there. So slowly when they become qualified in the sense, physically learn and then perform. That is nyasas, etc. When they are able to perform, step by step, they slowly introduce children. So as they grow, as they develop, as they master each and everything, these are presented. So Sandhya Vandana is a Ashaktova, Balova, Vriddhova. If they are not able to perform pranayama, if they are not able to hold their breath, they can say the mantras in the place of pranayama. But if they are able to do it, pranayama should be done. Because what is the pranayama? Pranayama is a prayaschittam pranayamaha. Prayo means tapas. So chittam means nishchayaha. Prayaha tapaityuchide chittaha nischayam uchade iti. That is tapo nischaya samyogaha. Prayaschittam means tapo nischaya samyoga. Pranayama is the prayaschitta. That is how it is prescribed. In fact, on the Gayatri Japam, on the second day, the entire Gayatri Japam also can be done through pranayama method. So it is all how we learn, how we perform, how we are able to perform, how healthy we are, all these things. It is for the elders to decide. So I think in this way, this can answer. But here in Hinduism, adhikari is not a husband or wife. Husband and wife, both of them together become a adhikari. Both of them together, they become qualified to perform any ritual. Say, for example, a man who is without his wife. Without his wife means if the wife is separated, he cannot perform even initiation for his children. He is not qualified because wife also must be there. Both of them, they form, we say better half. The word better half is there in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And without a better half, the man becomes bitter half. And then he cannot perform anything. That is, without husband, wife, without wife, husband, they are not qualified. Say, for example, Vagyatul Valvangu Valbavan. Valvang, see, we say Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, all the three people are dependent on Grihastha. When they are dependent on Grihastha, Grihastha cannot be not one who is in house, but one who is married, one who is carrying on the rituals, etc. So, Nagriham Grihamityaguhu Grihini Grihamuchyate. That is, wife is called house. நம்ம இப்ப தமிழ்ல பேசும்போது கூட நான் ஆத்துல கேட்டுட்டு சொல்றேன் அப்படின்பா. என்ன அவள் தானே? ஆமா, குழந்தைகள் இருக்கா, அப்பா அம்மா இருக்கா, மாமனார் மாமியார் இருக்கா, இவன் இருக்கா, சகலமான பேரும் இருக்கா. அவ்வளவு பேர் இருந்தாலும் ஆண்னா யாரை குறிக்கிறது? ஒய்ஃப் மட்டும்தான் சொல்றது. ஆண்னாலே ஒய்ஃப் மட்டும்தான். அசிஃப் சோ ஆத்துல கேட்டு சொல்றேன் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி உங்க ஆத்துல சொல்லிட்டு வந்துருங்க அப்படின்னா வீட்டுல ஒய்ஃப்ட்டு சொல்லிட்டு வந்துருங்க. ஒய்ஃபுக்கு ரெண்டு அழகான பேரு. ஒரு பேர் வந்து ஆண், ஒரு பேரு அசிஃப் ஷீ இஸ் த என்டையர் ஹவுஸ் அண்ட் சம்சாரம்னு. அவ இருந்தாதான் இது சம்சாரமே நடக்கிறது. என்னமோ பாக்கி பேர்லாம் சம்சாரம் இல்ல, அவ மட்டும்தான் சம்சாரம்ங்கிற மாதிரி. So both of them they form all the rituals belonging to Grihastha, and both of them they form together. But there is a concept called Brahmavadini. That is Brahmavadinaha. He also Brahmavadino Vadanti, that he referred to in the story of Mandeharune Dvipa. But the ladies called the Brahmavadini. Brahmavadinis are generally considered to be, and they are expected to be spinsters when they enter into Vedic rituals and the Vedic debates and all those things, Gargi, Vachaknivi, and all those people are considered to be Brahmavadinis, might have this sort of the compulsions or some sort of ritual expectations, etc., might have slowly changed with the time. Say these are all the people for the people of sociology. It's not in the area of rituals. Sorry. I cannot, and if at all, if these start to be what is called changed, they can be changed only by great people who are like Smritikaras. Because all rituals, we don't perform the rituals as simply some rituals. The rituals we think they are our way to God. God is an invisible thing, and way to God also is invisible. And since these are all invisible, we have to below, we have to accept, we have to trust, we must have faith, and we must have confidence in the Vedic and such rituals. And since we follow all those things, we follow the way in which it has been presented by our elders to us. That's how we have to follow this. And if at all, if any change is to be effected, that sort of inspiring, confidence inspiring people.
So there are just two short questions. One is, when the Gayatri Mantram is considered the core of the Sandhya Vandanam and is considered to purify everything, why are we prevented from chanting it loudly? That is one question. And the other one is, I think, very straightforward. And that is, has Sandhya Vandanam to be performed only after having a bath?
So, sir, I'll just maybe speak my view and then I'll hand it over to you. In this, I have a viewpoint as well about the Gayatri Mantram. Some of the audience may subscribe or may not subscribe to it. It is called a mantra. It is not just a nama. There is a lot of difference between a nama japa and a mantra japa. Mantra japa, has sir also pointed earlier, there is an adhikari. You are given a proper diksha or upadesha, and you are supposed to then follow with that upadesha. When you say upadesha, the person who is giving the upadesha is giving you some siddhi. Out of his power, he is giving you something. You find this in the stories of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and so many cases you find that when he gives diksha, he knows whether the person, if he doesn't perform, then it comes back to the person who has given the diksha. So there are a lot of intricacies involved there. So diksha is very taken to be very seriously and to be performed that way. So when you have an adhikari, when you have a specific restrictions for performing a mantra, I don't understand the logic of shouting out the mantra or chanting the mantra publicly. Anyone can chant, anybody. I have a very interesting anecdote here. When somebody asked this to Chandrasekhara Bharati Swamigal of Sringeri Peetham, Swamigal just asked one question. The same words or the same sentence, when uttered by a minister or uttered by a king and uttered by the beggar in that kingdom, is it going to have the same impact? The sentence could be the same. The sentence could be that let so much of money be given to the people. But when the king utters that, he is speaking from a position of authority, a position of power, because he is supposed to say that. And he is saying that after a lot of thought behind it. So when you have adhikari, is according to me, especially for mantra shastra and for our Vaidika dharma, adhikari is a big thing. So making ourselves qualified to be an adhikari is where we should focus on, rather than trying to jump the gun and say that why can't I also chant that mantra? The question is not why I can't chant that mantra. What does that mantra require me to be first as an adhikari? And am I ready to become that adhikari? That is all the question is. So if I am ready to become that adhikari, then the mantra is given to you. It has got, I wouldn't, of course, there are specific variations here and there, but we have seen in our Sanatana Dharma where Sant Kabir is also initiated into a mantra diksha, into a nama japa. There are many people from different communities, and everywhere people have been initiated into various things. It's only that they became the adhikari for it, they got it. So that is all I would say about the Gayatri mantra, about specifically the Adhikari part. About chanting it loud, this is what I have heard about the various the gradations of chanting any mantra. It is not specific to Gayatri. About chanting the mantra loudly, chanting the mantra just with the moving of the lips, and then internally. When you chant it loudly, that is how you will start. Because as a child, you can't expect the child to keep mentally chanting that mantra, because he doesn't even has got a grasp of what the mantra is. So first, the aksharas have to come under his control, or by chanting the mantra, by the chandas, how it has to be chanted, all those basic technicalities has to be first grasped. As he is grasping those technicalities, slowly as years go by, he starts contemplating on the meaning of the mantra, what the mantra is. The mantra will reveal itself to the upasaka. As the mantra starts revealing itself, the sadhaka doesn't have any more juice in just chanting it loudly. He wants to contemplate on the mantra, because he knows what the beauty of that mantra is. What is that mantra trying to say? So it is like saying, see the cow. The moment I say see the cow, first when I am reading probably see the cow, I am trying to grasp what is SEE and THE and COW. But as I progress, see the cow, I will see the cow rather than trying to repeat see the cow. So it is thus mantra is also the same way. You're starting from a point of the aksharas, what the aksharas are trying to tell us, and then there is a lakshana. The aksharas are also indicating towards something. So what they're indicating towards, when you grasp it, you automatically become mental and the manasika, and it doesn't become verbal. You don't have to anymore do the chanting verbal. This is what I had from my little this one, but sir, I would love to hear from you more on this aspect.
You have just beautifully presented it, especially the point from Chandrasekhara Bharati. And there is another question. Should Sandhya be performed taking bath or after not taking bath? All these things are depending on the individual traditions and individual, the family customs, conventions. There is one Sanskrit quotation, Suchirvapi Asuchirvapi Kale Sandhyam Samacharet. Whether a person is pure or impure, he has to perform Sandhya Vandana in time. There is one thing. But Asuchihi, what exactly is mean Asuchi? Asuchi means Vilpa Theta. Adilo a difference. So those who subscribe to that is Sandhya Vandana, there is no escape. Whether a person is pure or ritually impure, that is the vriddhi, whether due to the death of somebody in the family or the birth of a child in the family, people say that they are impure and they cannot perform puja and all those things. Even during this time, Sandhya Vandana is to be performed. That there is no respite and escape, but there is some difference. Some conventions. So that is called அசுச்சிங்கிறது சில பேர் அதை எடுத்துப்பாங்க. அதை எடுத்துக்கும் போது நான் 11 மணிக்கு தான் எழுந்திருப்பேன், 12 மணிக்கு தான் குளிப்பேன் அப்படின்னு இருந்தாக்க, அதெல்லாம் முதல்ல இது எப்போ முடியுமோ அப்போ பண்ணு, எவ்வளவு தூரம் முடியுமோ அவ்வளவு தூரம் பண்ணு, டயத்துக்கு பண்ணிடு அப்படிங்கிறது. அதாவது கார்த்தால சந்தியாவந்தனத்தை மாத்தியானிகத்தும் போது பண்ணாக்க, முதல்ல மத்தியானிகத்தை பண்றதா பிராத்த சந்தியை பண்றதா அப்படின்னு தகராறு வரும். அதுக்கெல்லாம் பெரிய ரூல்ஸ் அண்ட் ரெகுலேஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கு. அதனால என்ன ஆகுதுன்னு சொன்னோம்னாக்க, அந்தந்த டைம் சந்தியாவந்தனத்தை அந்தந்த டயத்துல பண்ணணும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக சந்தியாவந்தனம் ரொம்ப முக்கியம். குளிச்சுட்டு சந்தியாவந்தனம் பண்ணா ரொம்ப விசேஷம், குளிக்காம பண்ணா சுமார் விசேஷம். அட்லீஸ்ட் ஒண்ணுமே இல்லாம அவர் சொன்ன மாதிரி பிரத்யவாயம் அப்படின்னு ஒண்ணு வரதுக்காக நான் அதை நைஸா எஸ்கேப் பண்ணிட்டேன். பிரத்யவாயம் அவர் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணுவார் அப்படின்னு எனக்கு டைம் எடுத்துன்னு விட்டேன். ஸோ அப்ப பிரத்யவாயம் அப்படின்னாக்க இட் இஸ் தி வாட் இஸ் கால்டு ஒமிஷன். நம்ம இப்ப மிஸ்டேக் ஆஃப் கமிஷன் அண்ட் மிஸ்டேக் ஆஃப் ஒமிஷன் சொல்றோம் இல்லையா? மிஸ்டேக் ஆஃப் ஒமிஷன். இப்ப சந்தியாவந்தனம் பண்ணலைன்னாக்க இட் மே பி a mistake due to omission. At least mistake of omission is a greater mistake than a mistake of commission. அதனால இது என்ன ஆகுது? It all depends on how you interpret in your tradition. அவ்வளவுதான் அதை எடுத்துன்னு போனமே ஒழிய குளிச்சுட்டு பண்றது காலங்காலத்துல இப்ப பிராமே முகூர்த்தே சோத்தாய, that is one has to get up பஞ்ச உஷத் காலம் குறைஞ்சது சூரியோதயத்துக்கு 1.5 மணி நேரம் முன்னாடியாவது எழுந்திருக்கணும். அது எப்ப குளிக்கணுங்கிறதுல வேற ரூல்ஸ் அண்ட் ரெகுலேஷன்ஸ் இருக்கு. கரெக்டா 5:45 குளிக்க முடியுமா, என்ன ஏது? 6 மணிக்கு சூரியோதயம்னா 5:45 குளிக்க முடியுமா? 4:30 மணிக்கு எழுந்துட்டு 5:45 குளிக்கலாமான்னு? அப்படி இல்லை. அது எப்ப குளிக்கணும் அதுக்கெல்லாம் டைம் கேம் எல்லாம் இருக்கு. மெதுவா, அதாவது நம்மளுக்கு ஒரு நல்ல அருமையான ஒரு உப்பு போட்ட டூத் பேஸ்ட் கிடைக்கிற வரைக்கும் அப்படி நம்மளுக்கு பாடியில ஒரு சுறுசுறுப்பு போற வரைக்கும் அப்படி இழுத்துட்டு இருக்கலாமா அப்படிங்கறதெல்லாம் இல்லை. ஸோ சட்டுன்னு எழுந்த உடனே கிடுகிடுன்னு காரியத்தை பார்க்கணும். ஆனா நைட் டியூட்டியா இருந்தாக்க. ஸோ இப்போ வந்து அந்த கிருத்த யுகம் திரேதா யுகம் மாதிரி இல்லை. இப்போ இருக்கிறது வந்து என்ன ஆயிடுது, நம்ம இருக்கிறது வந்து ஒரு டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஏஜ், டிஃப்ரெண்ட் டைம், டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஒர்க் கல்ச்சர் அண்ட் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ரெக்குயர்மெண்ட்ஸ் அதெல்லாம் இருக்கும் பொழுது டு த மேக்ஸிமம் பெஸ்ட் பாசிபிள் திங் வி ஹாவ் டு ஃபாலோ இட். எவ்வளோ தூரம் முடியுமோ, எப்படிலாம் முடியுமோ அவ்வளோ தூரம். முடியல இது கஷ்டமா இருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறத விட கூட ஏதாவது ஒரு விதத்துல நம்ம என்ன பண்ணலாம், அந்த மாதிரி தான் எடுத்துன்னு போக முடியுமே ஒழிய இது மாதிரி ஒரு இதுல யூனிவர்சலா எல்லாருக்கும் யூனிஃபார்மா அப்ளை ஆகிற மாதிரி இப்ப இருக்கிற சூழ்நிலையில ரூல் போடுறது கஷ்டம். இண்டிவிஜுவலா அவ வந்து அதை பார்த்துக்கணும். அவளுடைய அதான் சொன்ன குரு அப்படிங்கிறது இந்த இடத்துல நம்மளுக்கு கைடன்ஸ் கொடுக்குறவா ரொம்ப முக்கியமா இருக்கா. ஸோ டெஃபினட்டா வி நீட் சம் பீப்புள் டு கைட் அஸ். வி ஹாவ் டு சர்ச் ஆர் வி ஹாவ் டு அக்செப்ட், வி ஹாவ் டு கோ. இவர் நம்ம சுப்பிரமணியமா இருக்கிறவாளே கைட் பண்ணலாம், அவளை கூட நீங்க அக்செப்ட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். அட்லீஸ்ட் இப்போ இந்த ஆன்லைன் கைடன்ஸ் கிடைக்கும், டைரக்ட் கைடன்ஸ், ஆஃப்லைன் கைடன்ஸ் இல்லைன்னா கூட. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி அட்லாஸ்ட் அதாவது ஜென்ரலா இது வந்து ஸ்பிரிச்சுவல் கைடன்ஸுங்கிறது இல்லை. அன்னைக்கு அப்ப நம்ம என்ன பண்றது, எப்படி பண்றது, சின்ன சின்ன விஷயங்களுக்கான கைடன்ஸ். அட்லீஸ்ட் டெஃபினெட்லி சம் கிளாஸ்மேட்ஸ் எல்லாம் கூட நம்மளுக்கு வந்து என்ன பண்ணுவான்னா அவன் என்ன பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்கிறது கூட நம்மளுக்கு கைடன்ஸா இருக்கலாம். அண்டு நம்ம வந்து அது இதை 3 சொல்லுவா, மானசிகம், உபாம்சு, வாச்சிக்கம் அப்படின்ற 3 விஷயம். மானசிகம்னா எந்த விதமான ஜபங்களையும் மனசுலயே திங்க் பண்ணி பண்றது. உபாம்சுன்னா உதட அசைகிறது, விஸ்பர் மாதிரி. வாச்சிக்கம், that means loudly. As he said, it applies to all the mantra japas, not only for Gayatri, all the mantra japas. Gayatri is the core essentially for Vedic rituals and Vedic learning and all these things. Gayatri is not just the core for anything and everything. In fact, in the Gayatri Pati detailed that is discussed in Devi Bhagavata, I think in the 11th skanda, full of very detailed, lots of discussions and things are there. So when you, I mean, it depends on our what sort of, with what goal we perform, with what aim we perform. If we perform it as general ritual, even Vachika will be good, no problem. But if you are learning and if you want to train our mind, Upamsu will be better. And when we are what is called evolving, when we are more interested in spiritual evolution things, etc., then we have to learn, that is, we have to control our mind and we have to identify with ourselves with the mantraksharas and mantra devata and things like that. In that case, if you are loudly uttering, then it may not be, identification may not be possible. Here, the guidance will be Mandukya Upanishad and Gaudapada Karika, where that is the Shabda and the Shabda Brahmam and Artha Brahmam. Both of them are identified with each other, and then we, through the Shabda Brahmam, we try to realize the Artha Brahmam. So if that were to be the what is called goal, then Manasika will be the best preferred thing. So that's the practice. So what is the aim? What is the goal? What is the process? What is the process of evolution? Or at what stage of evolution we are there? Like that, all these things are to be taken into account, and then correspondingly we can decide. It is, we are the center. Say one thing we have to learn. This has been not exactly in the way in which I am going to narrate, but the example has been given by Bharati Krishna Tirtha, that is the Puri Shankaracharya, who has written on Vedic mathematics. He has said, English, that is, they is the plural of that person. He plus he can become they, or he plus you, he plus I, all those things can become they. You plus you can become you. But we can never become I plus I. It is I plus he or I plus she or I plus you, something like that. And I plus, because I is only one I am that I. Even God is not that I. That's why other people, that is theistic people, say God is the innermost self of yourself. Satyasya satyam pranavayasya satyam. That is, God is not just someone else. He is the innermost self of yourself. But the self is only one. So I can only be one, and that I we have to take into account. That I, the core of that I we have to find, and from that core of I, we have to see which is best for us, Vachikam, Upamsu or Manasam.
Thank you so much, sir. I think it's been really a wonderful session. So I think that's about the questions that have come. People need some time to assimilate the amount of information that both of you have given. So I think I'll have to now, I have the pleasant duty then of proposing the vote of thanks and winding up the session. And as regards the researcher Subramaniam. He covered a wide and good range of both the textual and the performative aspects of Sandhya worship, and with some very clear and very interesting visuals. So I think it has come across to even the students who have been watching with keen interest, and hopefully it will inspire a lot of them to go into our texts and not be intimidated by them, because that is what happens for most of the youngsters these days. So thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And with regard to Sir, of course, he is like humility personified. He started by saying that he is not adding anything to the researcher's paper, but he gave a lot of value addition inputs. In fact, he also mentioned how it is with relation to all levels of existence, including bringing in Ayurveda and showing how holistically ecological our approaches. And as a true teacher, of course, he mentioned very specifically the mistakes that we can learn to make as teachers and mistakes that we can avoid as well. So I think it was a very enlightening session for all of us. And I think enlightening for different kinds of people. It was almost like Natya, where you come with what you want and you go back actually getting what you wanted. So I think it was a wonderful session. And I would, of course, like to thank here a few people who have helped to make this possible. One is the blessings of our Guru, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Padma Subramaniam, who has been very, very encouraging and who has given us the impetus to embark on this research-oriented journey. From our side, that is from Center of Excellence, Art and Culture, I take this opportunity to thank our Secretary, Sri Abhay Shishimal Jain, and our Principal, Dr. Padmavati, for giving us this opportunity to collaborate with a wonderful organization like Nrityodaya Academy of Performing Arts, Mumbai, who have also been lucky to get the support of people like Mr. Ramesh of Mahindra Finance and other experts who are more than willing to participate in these sessions. And we look forward to having more of these sessions throughout the year and hopefully for many more years to come. We're also happy to inform that our next session has been confirmed for October 16th, which is again a Friday. And it will be at 7 o'clock. As the expert, we have Professor Karunakaran, and he's a great, very erudite scholar. And I should thank Dr. Srinivasan for giving his reference. The young researcher will be presenting a paper on the elements of Natya in the works of Vedanta Deshikar. I would just request Dr. Jayashree to please give his name, that is the researcher's name.
He's Sriram. We call him Sriram. He is Sriram, who is a part of Kalasadar, another organization. But Sriram Narayan Swami, I don't know whether he calls him N. Sriram or Sriram Narayan Swami, but he is another very well educated. He's done his post-graduation, entire study in Sanskrit from the Mumbai University. And he would be presenting on the Natya aspect because he has a practical experience also as he sings and choreographs for his group.
So thank you so much to the expert and to the researcher, and of course to all our viewers who've been sending in a lot of very appreciative comments, and we hope that they will join us session after session. I also take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Vaishnavi Anand, who rendered the prayer at the beginning in her melodious voice. Thank you so much, and Shubharatri.
Thank you so much.